Holy Bible reading to request divine union, Theosis with God. This is part 7, and we continue. We read 2 chapters of the Old Testament, 1 chapter of the New Testament daily, but I'm doing it twice as fast. So we're reading 4 chapters of the Old Testament, 2 of the New Testament. And the New Testament, of course, starts with the book of Matthew. The Old Testament starts with the book of Genesis. And as our Holy Christian Orthodox Church teaches us, especially St. Seraphim of Sarah reminds us that in 1 year, if we normally read it, 2 chapters of the Old, 1 chapter of the New, because the Old Testament is twice as long. It's a very strong way of ascetic exercises. And we request the Holy Spirit, the union of the Holy Spirit, God's Spirit, with us. And this is what we know as Theosis. We continue with chapter 27 of Genesis. Isaac blesses Jacob. Now it came to pass when Isaac was old, and his eyes were so dim he could not see. Then he called Esau his older son, and said to him, "My son?" And he answered him, "Here I am." Then he said, "Behold, now I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now therefore take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. Then make me a savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die." Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt game for his father. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, her younger son, saying, "Indeed, I heard your father speak to Esau your brother, saying, 'Bring me game and make savory food for me, that I may eat it, and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to what I command you. Go now to the sheep and bring me from there 2 kids, choice and good, and I will make savory food from them for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall take it to your father, that he may eat it and bless you before his death.' Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, 'Look, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him, and I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing.' But his mother said to him, 'Your curse may be on me, my son. Your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go. Get them for me.' And so he went and he got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory food, such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. She also put the skins of the kids on his hands and on the exposed part of his neck, and then she gave the savory food and the bread she had prepared into the hands of her son Jacob. Thus he went to his father and said, 'My father?' And he said, 'Here I am. Who are you, my son?' Jacob said to his father, 'I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done just as you told me. Arise, sit and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me.' But Isaac said to his son, 'How is it you have found it so quickly, my son?' He said, 'Because the Lord your God brought it to me.' Then Isaac said to Jacob, 'Come near, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are my son Esau or not.' So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, 'The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's.' Thus he did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy like his brother's Esau's hands. So he blessed him, and then he said, 'Are you my son Esau?' He said, 'I am.' Then he said, 'Bring your game to me, my son, and I will eat from it, that my soul may bless you.' So he brought it near to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, 'Come near and kiss me, my son.' So he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his clothing. Thus he believed him, and said, 'Surely the smell of my son is like the smell of the field the Lord has blessed. Therefore may God give you of the dew of heaven, and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, and nations how and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brethren, and let your brothers and your mother's son bow down to you. And cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you. Esau's lost blessing. Now it happened as soon as Isaac finished blessing Jacob his son, and Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting, and he also made savory food and brought it to his father, and said to his father, that my father arise in need of his son's game, that your soul may bless me. And his father Isaac said to him, Who are you? So he said, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. Then Isaac trembled exceedingly and said, Who? Where is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I have blessed him. And indeed he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, Bless me also, my father. But he said, Your brother came with deceit, and has taken away your blessing. Then Esau said, Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now look, he has taken away my blessing. So he said, Have you not received a blessing for me? Have you not reserved a blessing for me? Then Isaac answered and said to Esau, Indeed, I have made him your lord, and all his brethren I have given to him as servants, with grain and wine. I have sustained him. What shall I do now for you, my son? Esau said to his father, Have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me also, O my father. But then when Isaac was trembled, Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, Behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. But by your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass when you become restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck. Jacob sent to Laban. Thus Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his mind, Let the days of mourning of my father draw near, then I will kill my brother Jacob. So the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said to him, Surely your brother Esau is threatening to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Mesopotamia to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him a few days, until your brother's anger and wrath turn away from you, and he forgets what you did to him. Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved also of you both in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of this land, what good will my life be to me? Isaac sends Jacob to Mesopotamia. Chapter 28. Now Isaac called Jacob and blessed him, and charged him, saying, You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Mesopotamia, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take yourself a wife from there of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God bless you and increase and multiply you, that you may be an assembly of nations, and give you the blessings of Abraham, to you and your seed with you, that you may inherit the land of your sojourning, which God gave to Abraham. So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Mesopotamia to Laban, to the son of Bethuel the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and sent him away to Mesopotamia to take himself a wife from there. And as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And Jacob had obeyed his father and mother, and had gone to Mesopotamia. Also Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please his father Isaac. So Esau went to Ishmael, and took Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, and sister of Nebajoth, to be his wife, in addition to the wives he already had. Jacob's ladder. Now Jacob went out from the well of oath and went towards Haran. So he came to the certain place and stayed there all night because the sun had set. Then he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, that he lay down in that place to sleep. Then he dreamed and beheld a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven. And there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. So behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Isaac. Do not fear. The land on which you lie I will give to you and your seed. Also your seed shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and the east, to the north and the south. And in you and in your seed all the tribes of the earth shall be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, The Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. So he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Now Jacob arose early in the morning and took the stone and he put his head at and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. Thus Jacob called the name of the place Bethel, but the name of that city was Luz previously. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, If the Lord God will be with me and keep me in this way I'm going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, and bring me back in safety to my father's house, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone I set as a pillar shall be God's house to me. And of all you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you. Chapter 29. Jacob and Rachel. Now Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the east to Laban. So he looked and saw a well in the field, and behold, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a large stone was on the well's mouth. Now all the flocks would be gathered there, and they would roll the stone from the well's mouth, water the sheep, and put the stone back in the place on the well's mouth. So Jacob said to them, My brethren, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. And then he said to them, Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. So he said to them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. Look, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep. Then he said, Is it still high day? It is still high day. It is not time for the cattle to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go and feed them. But they said, We cannot until all the shepherds are gathered together. And they had rolled the stone from the well's mouth. And they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we will water the sheep. Now while he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. So Jacob told Rachel he was her father's relative and Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father these words. Then it came to pass when Laban heard the report about Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. So he told Laban all these things. Now Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my brother, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be? Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. So Laban said, It is better that I give her to you than to another man. Stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed only a few days to him because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her. Now Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a wedding feast. Thus it came to pass in the evening he took Leah his daughter and brought her to Jacob. And he went into her. So Laban gave his maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a handmaiden. Then it came to pass in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me? Laban replied, It must not be done so in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and I will give you this one also for the service you will render me still another 7 years. Then Jacob did so and fulfilled her week. So he gave him his daughter Rachel as wife also. Laban also gave his handmaiden Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as a handmaiden. Then Jacob also went into Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban still another 7 years. Jacob's children. But when the Lord saw Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. So Leah conceived and bore Jacob a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, The Lord has surely looked on my humiliation. Now therefore my husband will love me. Then she conceived again and bore Jacob a second son, and said, Because the Lord has heard how that I was hated, he has therefore given me this son also. So she called his name Simeon. She conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now this time my husband will be on my side, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore she called his name Levi. Now she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now I will give thanks to the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah. Then she stopped bearing. Chapter 30. Now when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. So Jacob's anger was aroused against Rachel. He said, Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? She replied to Jacob, Here is my maid, Bilhah. Go into her, and she will bear on my knees, that I also may have children by her. She then gave him Bilhah, her maid, as wife, and Jacob went into her. Thus Bilhah, Rachel's handmaiden, conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, God has judged me, and he has heard my voice and given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan, which means judge in Hebrew. Now Rachel's handmaiden Bilhah conceived again, and she bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, God has helped me, and I have wrestled with my sister, and indeed I have prevailed. So she called his name Naphtali. Now when Leah saw she had stopped bearing, she took Zilpah, her handmaiden, and gave her to Jacob as wife. So Jacob went into her, and Zilpah, Leah's handmaiden, conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, Good fortune. Thus she called his name Gad. Now Zilpah, Leah's handmaiden, bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, I am blessed, for the women will call me blessed. So she called his name Asher. Now Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Thus Rachel said to Leah, Give me some of your son's mandrakes. But she said to her, Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also? So Rachel said, Not so. Let him lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes. Now when Jacob came out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, You must come in to me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he lay with her that night. Thus God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a 5th son. Then Leah said, God has given me my wages, because I have given my handmaiden to my husband. So he called his name Issachar. So she called his name Issachar. Now Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a 6th son. Then Leah said, God has endowed me with a good endowment. Now my husband will choose me, because I have borne him 6 sons. So she called his name Zebulun. Afterwards she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah. Dinah in Greek means hardship. And we will see later on what Dinah went through. The agreement of Jacob and Laban. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. Thus she conceived and bore a son, and said, God has taken away my reproach. So she called his name Joseph, and said, the Lord shall add another son to me. Now it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, send me away that I may go to my own place and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know the service I rendered you. Then Laban said to him, if I could find grace in your eyes, I would seek for it divinely, for God has blessed me by your coming. So he said, name me your wages, and I will give it. Jacob replied, you know how I have served you, and how numerous your cattle became with me. For what you had before I came was little, and it has increased to a great amount. The Lord has blessed you since my coming. Now therefore, when shall I also establish my own house? Thus Laban said to him, what shall I give you? Jacob replied, you shall not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep your sheep. Let me pass through all your flocks today, removing from them all the gray sheep, and all the spotted and speckled among the goats. And these shall be my wages. So my righteousness will answer for me in time to come, when the subject of my wages comes before you. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and gray among the sheep will be considered stolen if it is with me. Then Laban said to him, let it be according to your word. So he removed that day all the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the gray ones among the sheep, and gave them into the hands of his sons. Then he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Now Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar, and of the almonds and chestnut trees, peeled the white strips in them, tearing off the bark. So the white strips he had peeled appeared on the rods as spotted. Then he placed the rods he had peeled in the gutters of the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, so they should conceive at the rods as they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth speckled, spotted, and ash-colored, speckled. But Jacob separated the male lambs, placed a speckled ram before the sheep, and all that were spotted among the male lambs. And then he separated for himself the flocks by themselves, and did not mix them with the sheep of Laban. Thus it came to pass, whenever the sheep conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before the sheep in the gutters, so they might conceive according to the rods. But whenever the sheep had already given birth, he did not put them in. Thus it came to pass that the unmarked were Laban's, and the marked were Jacob's. So the men became exceedingly rich, and had many cattle and oxen, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. That's the end of chapter 30. And now we go to chapter 13 and 14 of Matthew. I made a mistake in the beginning. I said 11 and 12. I made a mistake. It's 13 and 14. We continue from where we left off. The parable of the sower. Matthew 13. On the same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea, and great multitudes were gathered together to him, so that he got into a boat and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places, where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprung up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell upon thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them, but others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. And he who has ears, let him hear. Ears to hear, let him hear. The mystery of parables. And the disciples came and said to him, why do you speak to them in parables?" He answered and said to them, "Because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For whoever has, to him more will be given, and he will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. And in them the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled, which says, 'Hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. For the hearts of this people have grown dull, their ears are hard of hearing. Their eyes they have closed, lest they shall see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so that I should heal them. Blessed are your ears, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For assuredly I say to you that many prophets and righteous men desired to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it." The sower explained. "Therefore hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what has sown in his heart. This is he who received seed by the wayside. But he who received the seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a little while. For when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. Now he who received seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. But he who received the seed on the good ground is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and produces some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. The wheat and the tares. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, 'Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares?' He said to them, 'The enemy has done this.' The servant said to him, 'Do you want us then to go and gather them up?' But he said, 'No, lest while you gather up the tares you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, First gather the tares and bind them into bundles and burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn.' The mustard seed and the leaven. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, 'The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all the seeds, but when it is grown, it is greater than the herbs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and nest in its branches.' Another parable he spoke to them, 'The kingdom of heaven is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal till it was all leavened.' Parables fulfill prophecy. All these things Jesus spoke to the multitude in parables, and without a parable he did not speak to them, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, 'I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things kept secret from the foundations of the earth, of the world.' The wheat and tares explained. Then Jesus sent his multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came to him, saying, 'Explain to us the parable of the tares of the field.' He answered and said to them, 'He who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and good seeds are the sons of the kingdom, but the tares are the sons of the wicked one. The enemy who sowed them is the devil, and harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. Therefore, as the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of this age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and those who practice lawlessness, and will cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. The hidden treasures and the pearl of great price. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid. And for joy over it he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. The dragnet. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet that was cast into the sea and gathered some of every kind, which when it was filled they drew to shore, and they sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but threw the bad away. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come forth, separate the wicked from among the just, and cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Old and new wisdom. Jesus said to them, "Have you understood all these things?" And they said to him, "Yes, Lord." Then he said to them, "Therefore every scribe instructed concerning the kingdom of heaven is like a house builder who builds out of his treasure things new and old." Now it came to pass, when Jesus had finished these parables, that he departed from there. Rejection at Nazareth. When he had come to his own country, he taught them in their synagogues, so that they were astonished and said, "Where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Where then did this man get all these things?" So they were offended at him. But Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own country and in his own house." Now he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Herod's fears. Chapter 14. At the time Herod the Tetrarch heard the report about Jesus and said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him." For Herod had laid hold of John and bound him and put him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because John had said to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." And although he wanted to put him to death, he feared the multitude because they counted him as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday was celebrated, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Therefore he promised with an oath to give her whatever she might ask. So she, having been prompted by her mother, said, "Give me John the Baptist's head here on a platter." And the king was sorry, nevertheless, because of the oaths and because of those who sat with him. He commanded it to be given to her. So he sent and had John beheaded in prison, and his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. Then his disciples came and took away the body and buried it, and went and told Jesus. Feeding the 5,000. When Jesus heard it, he departed from there by boat to a deserted place by himself. But when the multitudes heard it, they followed him on foot from the cities. And when Jesus went out, he saw a great multitude, and he was moved with compassion for them, and healed their sick. When it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is already late. Send the multitude away that they may go into the villages and buy themselves food." But Jesus said to them, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." And they said to him, "We have here only 5 loaves and 2 fish. He said, "Bring them here to me." And he commanded the multitudes to sit down on the grass, and he took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and looked up to heaven. He blessed and broke and gave the loaves to the disciples. And the disciples gave to the multitudes. So they ate and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments that remained. Now those who had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Walking on water. Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." So he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid and began to sink and cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Healing continues. When they had crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent out into all that surrounding region, brought to him all who were sick, and begged him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. And as many as touched it were made perfectly well. And we'll continue with chapter 15 in the next reading. God bless you, protect you, provide for you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.